So I'm going to have a look at the rotten tubers that we discovered during the check and see what needs to be done about that. Because there is rot here, I'm going to make sure that anything that has been in the area of rot is either cleaned or disposed of. So I'll be using new newspaper, and also I'll be cleaning the plastic bags just with a hose pipe to get rid of any fungal spores that might be attached at the moment. So here's our rotten tuber. Hopefully you can see, I'll use a pencil, where the trouble is. We've got here is a damaged tuber which should have been removed when I first took the tuber out of the ground, because that damage will allow rot to start, and that's exactly what's happening there. This soft, squishy half tuber, which is dark in colour, is undergoing rot, and it's the same with this area here. So that's soft, and as you can see is breaking up just as I touch it. So we're going to carefully sit and divide away the rotten part and have a look at the remaining tubers to see how we can best conserve them for next year. So I'll take the box away and bring the tuber back. Work on this newspaper to save infecting the work surface. Just looking at that, it's confusing for the camera, I think, so I'll change the newspaper, or I'll keep the newspaper, but I'll put some brown paper underneath as well. So I'll just show you what I've got here on the table to help this process. I've got my favourite tools, which you'll work your own favourite tools out. But often this is all I need. It's a knife which has just got the right shape to it. Allows me to get in there and to cut out any diseased tissue. I've also got some hydrogen peroxide, which I'm going to use to sterilise the instruments during and after I've cut out infected parts. I certainly need to sterilise the instruments so that they don't carry infection through to the next time I use it. One reason why I'll be using as few instruments as possible, and also got carefully protecting the areas around to try to make as few areas where spores can transmit onto further work in the future. So let's put some hydrogen peroxide onto this tissue and we're good to go. So let's have a close look. I'm going to take the label off first. Probably sterilise that next so that I can put it back. And now we'll have an inspection. Just tease away some of this tissue and soil. We're now into an infected situation, so my instruments the surface. Everything has now got the organism present. Say the organism, it's usually a collection of fungal and bacterial elements, I think, which cause tuber rot. Notably Fusarium, which is can be a pathological fungus. There's all sorts of variations of that fungus, and some are saprophytic and not harmful, and others are definitely pathological. Being a fungus, it likes cool, damp conditions. But in general, I don't think it would infect tubers which are healthy unless they're subject to a very poor environment. So I'm just teasing away all of the obviously infected parts. I'll be taking a big chance if I put this tuber back, even though I've removed much of the infection. I'll be taking a big chance if I put this tuber back into storage, because there's so much of the infecting organism there. There's so much damaged tissue which remains, which will promote further infection spreading. And really the choice I make here is to remove the remaining healthy tubers, I hope, and to put them into storage as single tubers, ready for next year. So I've got rid of a lot of the infection there, although like I say, there's no way I'm going to leave this stuff to carry on the process. But it does allow me to have a look at the tuber mass, and see whether I think there's whether there's enough viable tissue to continue the exercise or not. And these tubers, some of these tubers look okay, some look not okay. I'm not sure at this moment whether I've got tubers which are going to be viable or not, whether I'll be able to divide them and take an eye or not. But we'll carry on with the process of cleaning this tuber up. Getting rid of this dead tissue. Now there's this bit here which we saw earlier, which is rotten, remnants of what was a tuber. So I'll just clean that up. You can see how damaged that tissue is there. It's damp, it's disintegrating, and I can tell you it's smelly. You might have noticed that the double tuber mass here which I've got is beginning to separate because of the trauma of me messing with it. This knife's not performing particularly well now. It should be sharper. But I don't need to do this really. I'm just demonstrating what rot looks like. I don't need to do it because I'm going to go on and remove some of the tubers, healthy tubers, to see whether things are preservable. And the inside of this tuber is actually rotting. You can see, and the tissue's breaking away. That is. So that will allow us to look inside the tuber length until we reach, hopefully, healthy tissue, and we can see the difference between rotten and healthy tissue. Okay, this is quite good. So we've got here around about the middle of the tuber, I've cut right through, and you can see that on the surface it looks pretty okay. You'd look at that cursorily and say, oh, that tuber's okay. It's nice and light in colour, firm. If I squeeze it, oops, no, there we go, it did go through. I was going to say if I squeeze it, it just feels firm. Well, it did do until it went through. So let's do another cut. Okay, this is good, because this is what you'll see over and over again. You will see that a tuber is in two parts: healthy on the outside, healthy skin, healthy tissue, until around about the middle, when the tissue then becomes damaged, infected and dying. So this is an infected tuber with the process going on primarily in the centre of the tuber. So I'm going to just keep cutting, and I may or may not reach healthy tissue. This is just for demonstration purposes, so because this tuber is non-viable, even if I got through to healthy tissue, there's not enough left of the tuber to say, right, that's going to be okay. As I'm cutting, I've still got rot in the middle there, and in fact it looks like the whole of this tuber is affected by rot in the middle. Just getting towards the end of it now. So I'm cutting through almost to the neck of this tuber, and the rotten part in the middle is just beginning to shrink away. Okay, it's still rotten there. But you can imagine, can't you, your tubers are stored away over winter, and this is what's happening. Right, finally got there. So let's have a look at the bits first. Now, this tuber here, I was hoping I'd be able to get one single tuber, but there's damage at the end here of this tuber, so I'm going to cut that once again. Once we cut through, we can see that there's the central part of that tuber is rotting. So I'm going to see if I can remove that together with an area that might include an eye. It's another one of these where it's possible that it could sprout, but probably less likely than it should be. So I'm going to give that a try. The same with that thin neck, an area here where we possibly have eyes on the collar. So, well, like I said before, this is splitting, so it's usually a good thing to allow the split to occur in a natural place, because often it reveals areas that you couldn't see previously. So it's a rather tatty tuber anyway, this, unfortunately, tuber mass, but because it's precious, I'm anxious to conserve it. Possibly there's a sort of branch here with 3 tubers coming off it, so we'll just have a look at that, see whether we can get some tubers that might be okay. Again, possible, but improbable. Same with that. These bits we've cut through will form a callus over the next few days, which is protective, helps the tuber to protect itself by forming a skin, and then we will then go on to the next stage, which is probably to wrap these in cling film. And we won't know until next year whether we've got viable tubers or not. These are all possibles but not probables, I'm afraid. So here's the neck, and here's the insertion point where, if there are any eyes, this is where they'll be. That knife's not sharp enough. This is the first one I'd look at and say, well, that'll probably give us a shoot. Healthy tuber, neck, collar, areas here where the swellings, which could be eyes. So I'd be quite hopeful. I'd be quite hopeful that that's going to give us a plant next year. Now let's look at these guys. These are a bit more hopeful. So when dividing tubers, I hope this is strong enough, it's often useful to choose a place where an incision can be made, which will divide the tubers off into two areas, two lots of tubers, and I've chosen here to go in there. Need a bit of strength. I've gone between those two tubers, and with some luck I can split away. There we are. And now we've got two lots which are easier to visualise, easier to see. Right, that's what's going on. So here we can see we've got three tubers, and they insert here, and these rough areas, none of them you'd say there's a definite eye, but that's often the case at this time of the season. You can't see eyes, but you can, with experience, know that this area is where eyes are likely to be. So I'm going to again divide the two. Whether I've cut a bit too much away there, I'm not sure. And here, so area here where I'm hoping next year we'll get a plant. And with this one it's a matter of leaving some tissue with the tuber and cutting the rest away and just hoping that you've got an eye. This is risky because it's not very healthy. Soil. And by the time I've got through there, there's very little left of the area I was hoping to preserve, but clean it up, put it in the bundle. So this is our tuber, there's the insertion point, and we're going to take some of the shoot area further on. See what we've got, some areas which are going to rot. Any area that's brown in colour like that is very suspicious. Chances are that rot will start there and spread to the rest of the tuber. Rather messy end that. This area particularly is rather messy, so I suspect that will probably carry on rotting. It wants to separate there. Still some brown in there. Once again, there's a chance that will be okay. And I think the last one here, just break this tatty tuber away because it's not going to be viable. So I think that's taken away an area where possibly there was an eye, so I think that's going to be a fail, but we'll give it a go. Nothing wrong with just conserving it and then putting it in a pot next year and see whether it puts a shoot out or not. So we finished. Sterilize. 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 I'll take this lot away and dump it because it's potentially infected, and then we'll come back and have a look at our single tuber collection that we've got. So it's next morning, and these are the single tubers I managed to cut away from the rotten tuber mass, and there's 13 altogether. I'm quite pleased with that. But they're dried off nicely on the tips just overnight, so they are satisfactory now for wrapping in cling film, which is what I'll do later on today. I'm just looking through each of those, and there's one which is a bit suspicious. It's darker in colour, this one here, so let's have a look at that. Oh, it's rotten, so I missed that on first sight, but that's a rotten tuber, so I'll throw that away. And the rest of them I'll get on later and wrap them up. So thanks very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you for the next one. Thanks again. Bye.